Once upon a time, there was an old and widowed queen who had an only son, and feeling that her age prevented her from giving as much care as she had formerly done to the affairs of her state, she called the young princess to her. My son, before death calls me to another world, I would like to see you happily married, and to give the lands over to you and your wife. For the time has come when you must put pleasure to one side and shoulder the responsibility of your high state. I would have you marry a princess who is both beautiful and hardworking, for a queen who thinks only of pleasure and fine clothes will never help you to rule wisely. I know of a wise and loyal princess in a faraway land. Go to her and give her this ring of turquoise. Once she sees the ring, she will know you will be loyal and kind. She will know you are meant to be together, for her name is the Turquoise Princess. And so the prince began his journey, traveling through the mountain on the back of a noble steed. Accompanying him was a noble servant, whom the prince trusted greatly. Now the servant who pretended to be so faithful and servile was in reality a most cunning and evil fellow. Oblivious to the servant's cruel nature, the prince continued along the path to the faraway kingdom. The servant thought to himself, "He promises to reward me well if all goes well with him, but if not, I stand a chance of getting nothing. If indeed there will be no ifs about it, for I shall help myself to my own reward." And thinking thus, he conceived of a plot to rid himself of the prince and take the princess for himself. The servant pushed the prince off of his horse, sending him tumbling to the edge of the cliffside. "Wait!" the prince shouted as he was mere inches from the edge of the cliff. "You intend to be rid of me, take my place, and marry the Turquoise Princess for yourself. No?" The servant nodded, his eyes still wide with fervor. "Might I offer a suggestion? You see, if you approach the kingdom's gates, masquerading as a prince alone, the guards will know you are lying, for a prince never travels without a servant. Perhaps you spare my life, and I will act as your servant. I get to survive, and you get to convince the guards that you are the prince that will marry the Turquoise Princess." And so the servant reluctantly saved the prince from falling to his doom and swapped clothes with the clever prince. The prince and the servant easily passed the gates into the faraway kingdom, and the servant, disguised as the fair prince, found an inn to rest at. The cruel servant made a deal with the innkeeper in order to keep the prince out of trouble for the night while he rested. The innkeeper would put the prince to work herding his sheep long throughout the night, making sure none would wander off. And so the prince worked, standing out in the field throughout the wee hours of the night, his eyes getting heavier by the second. The prince woke up in a shock, looking around and realized his sheep were nowhere to be found. He ran through the woods, trying desperately to find his lost sheep. But then the prince saw someone standing alone in the distance. As the moon gracefully shone down, he could see, illuminated in a crystalline beam of light, the most elegant woman he had ever set his eyes on. "Fair woman, what reason do you have to be sitting all alone at such a late hour?" the prince asked as he approached the mysterious woman. She, partially obscured by a dark cloak, turned to him and responded palely. "Poor shepherd, I sit here alone, for I am weary with life. My father is pressuring me to marry, but of all the men he offers, none are kind. They seek my hand in marriage, not for my wisdom nor my courage, but for my looks and position alone." The two spent the whole night together, sharing their unique sorrows and troubles, comforted by each other's company. But as the two saw the sun gently rising on the horizon, they knew their time together had to come to an end. As the prince began to depart, something slipped out of his ragged peasant's clothes. The woman picked up the small turquoise ring and analyzed it closely. "What coincidence! You carry a ring made of my namesake." "Your namesake?" asked the prince. "Well, that would mean..." The prince looked at the mysterious woman again, realizing that she was the person he was searching for this whole time. And so the prince and the Turquoise Princess departed, knowing that she must return to her palace and he must meet her there to prove his love and convince the kingdom that they were meant to be together. Bells donged and chimes rang throughout the city as a crowd formed around the steps of the palace. Surrounding the steps of the palace was a rowdy bunch of suitors, all bickering and trying to one-up each other to show off to the Turquoise Princess. One by one, a suitor would be introduced by the king to the princess, and one by one, she would deny them. Then one man emerged from the crowd, dressed in the finest silk and holding his head high. "Fair princess, it is me, a strong and handsome prince. Take my hand in marriage," said the cruel servant, disguised as the fair prince. "I have even brought my noble servant with me." The princess saw the fair prince beside the servant, seeing now how they had swapped roles. She turned to the king and said, "Father, I wish to marry the servant beside him." "Nonsense," shouted the king. "You are the princess of the kingdom. You deserve a wise and loyal ruler to help you lead. Why not the prince beside him?" "Father, you must trust me. This man is truly fit to be prince." The Turquoise Princess begged the king. "I'm afraid the people will not accept a pitiful servant to marry my daughter. There's only one way to prove if this man is worthy. Bring forth the great divining elephant." A hush grew over the crowd as the king made the decree. The great divining elephant was only brought out for the most important of occasions. Imbued with the wisdom of the gods, the elephant would decide the fate of the prince and the Turquoise Princess. Horns blared as the divining elephant bellowed from its mighty trunk. The divining elephant, decorated in golden armor and charms, towered over the crowds as it slowly lumbered toward the palace. The crowd split as the elephant approached the prince and the servant, staring at them both intently. The divining elephant reached out its mighty trunk to the two of them, and he scooped up the prince, showing the world that he was the chosen prince to marry the Turquoise Princess. The servant silently scowled as he saw the elephant had made its choice. Furious that his plan had failed, he acted brashly and attacked the elephant in an attempt to get it to drop the prince. The elephant, annoyed by this pitiful attempt, crushed the servant under its massive foot. The elephant lifted the prince up to the Turquoise Prince and the king. "I don't understand," said the king. "Why would the divining elephant choose such a lowly present?" The prince explained his story to the king, telling him about the conniving servant who forced him to swap identities and his meeting with the Turquoise Princess last night. "And why should I trust you?" asked the king. "I have seen how untrustworthy these suitors can be." The prince stood humbly before the Turquoise Princess and her father. He slowly reached into his raggedy pocket and pulled out the beautiful turquoise ring. "Great king," said the prince, "I have brought this turquoise ring all the way from my kingdom just for your daughter." The king examined the turquoise ring, then looked back at his daughter's hopeful face. And the king said, "Very well, young prince. I hereby give you blessing to marry my daughter." After their extravagant and joyous wedding, the two returned to the prince's kingdom, where they would now rule together. The couple lived the rest of their happy days serving the people of their kingdom justly, always remembering to not judge those on how they seem, but how they truly are. The end.